everybody. Judea Hartley here. Welcome back into the one and only AM show. All right, you guys. So at the top of the show, we teased that we have an incredible guest. And guess what, ladies and gents? She is with us today right here. Her name is Nandi L Fernandez, and she is an incredible illustrator who I really support and adore. So without further ado, would you put your hands together and show your love for my girl, Nandi L Fernandez?
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us live on the AM show. So, you guys, before we get into the interview, Nandi has been super instrumental in helping me with some creative projects that I shared with her, and I can't wait to actually begin that process and work with her because I've been such a supporter of your content for so long because you are truly, your designs, your artist ability is truly breathtaking. So I'm honored. I'm honored that you've joined us today. Yes, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Our pleasure. Okay, so Nandi, let's get into really the meat of the sandwich. So I want to know, when did you realize you wanted to become an artist? Take us all the way back to the beginning of your journey. When did you realize, wait a minute, I have a gift here?
So I have always been a creative, like ever since I was little. I love drawing, painting, and thankfully I was blessed with parents that really nurtured that and really encouraged me. So I always knew that this was something that I loved so much. The thing that I had to figure out was how to make a career out of it and how to make a life out of what I enjoy doing, but it's always been something that I've loved.
Okay, so what age were you, right? Like, let's get into specifics. What age were you when you first created your first piece of art?
I would say I was as young as like 3 or 4. My mom has like a whole folder of paintings and things that I did at that age. What I can say as early as I can remember, I would say I was about 7 years old in school.
Okay, yeah. And what did you draw? It was a drawing, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what did you draw?
So at the school that I went to, they really pushed the arts. So I remember, right now I vividly remember a pastel drawing that I did of a butterfly. So it was nature. I drew a lot of just nature-inspired things at that point.
Yeah, so beautiful. I know that gift definitely came at such a young age because it's obvious. It's obvious that you've been working on that for so long. I can see it through your Instagram, and I'm curious because I am so not an artist, Nandi. I just want to know, what is your entire creative process like? Like, when you are approaching a new project, give me the steps. What do you do?
So it all starts with inspiration, of course, and I'm always constantly researching and brainstorming. So that's the sort of inciting point of my creative process. And then with that, I get into sketches. So whether I'm doing whatever projects I'm working on, whether it's a book, whether it is a painting, it always starts with some sketches and just fine-tuning those. And once I'm happy with a sketch, I move on to the painting process. That is my favorite part of the process. I can just go in with the color and the lighting and just add all of the magic that you see at the end. So that's a little bit of background into my creative process.
Wow, and how long on average does it take you to complete a project?
It depends on the project. So if it's a painting, like some of the ones that you see on my social media, that would take me about 5 hours collectively for each piece. If it's a book project or something like that, that's going to take much longer. So
yeah,
it really depends.
Yeah. Wow. So you would say that you have been an illustrator for how long now? How many years?
I've been I've been doing this professionally for about 5 years, but I've been an illustrator for a very long time. Even
Interesting.
prior to
So,
that, yeah.
okay, so what were you doing before you started doing this professionally?
So before, I was studying. I was doing animation actually. So I was actually in the gaming industry prior to this.
Gaming.
Yeah, gaming. So I was studying 3D animation, and I was also doing concept art for video games. Yeah.
Wow, how cool is that? Wait, so that's an interesting connection. So would you say that gaming has influenced your artistry in some way?
I would say, yeah, concept art, the process of creating concept art has definitely influenced my art because that's sort of where I learned my fundamentals. So it's definitely a huge
Yeah.
influence there. Yeah.
Okay, wow. And throughout this entire process, like, I just want to know, where do you draw your inspiration from?
Oh wow! So from everything around me, from life. So I draw a lot of my inspiration from the women around me, especially in terms of the portraits that you see on my social media. It's just the beauty of Black women, the grace, the softness, the magic. So that's where I draw a lot of my inspiration, and just what is around me. So
Yeah.
nature, everything, yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I started following you. I mean, it was so obvious, right, that you were talented. So obvious that you were talented and you were skilled and that you've answered your calling. That's obvious through your work. But I love that it really, really catered to Black women. I love that it catered to all different body sizes and colors and shapes. Like, I love that, like, when you go to your page, like, women, especially Black women, could really, really feel like queens when you go to their page, when you go to your page, because you depict them as such. It's all of this regality and honor. Yes, and little Black girls, look here on the screen, honor and joy and beauty and vibrancy. So I mean, I'm just stunned. I want to know, Nandi, what was the turning point, right? What was that pivotal part in your life when you decided that you wanted the majority of your artistry to be dedicated to Black women?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a Black woman. I'm a dark skinned Black woman, and growing up, when I was little, I noticed really young that I just didn't see a lot of images that positively represented Black women, especially darker skinned Black women with natural hair. It was just very few and far between, if any, especially in literature. So I really aim to create what I didn't see growing up and to create it in abundance because I believe it should exist in abundance.
And wait, an abundance of Black women and artistry and that being displayed.
Yes.
No, it's so true. And I always say to myself and to other people, like, if we can't like see ourselves in you, there's no way we're gonna relate to you. There's no way we're gonna relate to you if we can't see some part of ourselves in you. It's we're just not gonna relate to you. Like, you don't, we understand you because we have to live in your world and our world, but you don't understand us. And I think that's where judgment, I feel it all the time. That's where judgment comes in. So I love that you are depicting that. Now, throughout this entire journey, your artist journey, who has been your biggest inspiration? Like a family member, who's been your biggest source of comfort?
Yeah, I would say my mom immediately comes to mind. Just an amazing, incredible woman. She poured so much into me, and I referenced earlier, having amazing parents that really just uplifted me creatively. She was the biggest factor of in that. So I would say my mom, and yeah, she's definitely my biggest inspiration.
Hey, Mama. I'm sure she's so proud of you. I'm sure she's so proud of everything that you are doing. Now, Nandi, you are the artist. So I'm curious, would you ever be willing to create your own children's book?
So yeah, it's funny that you asked that. I am actually working on something right now that's going to be out very soon. It's my first author illustrator project. So I wrote it and I've also illustrated it, and it is going to be the first of many for sure.
Wait, this is your first. I couldn't really. Let's get this sound together, y'all. I couldn't really hear her. This is your first illustrator. What is it?
Author illustrator book. So the first book that I've authored as well as illustrated.
Wow. And the book is geared to what? What is it? Children's book? What demographic is it geared to?
It is a children's book, and it is specifically set in an African context, but a modern African context. And it is going to be tackling some environmental issues. So it's going to be a super fun book that's going to be the first of many. Absolutely.
Wait, I love that. Tackling environmental issues such as?
So on the continent, such as, well, in this particular book, we are going to be talking about deforestation. So just the things that aren't really talked about very much in the environmental and climate space. Africa tends to be left out of the conversation a lot of the time. So a lot of people just don't know what's happening in places where people live below the poverty line, and those are people who are most affected by climate issues. So just bridging that gap of what's going on everywhere in the world.
I love that. And what part of Africa do you live in?
So I'm all over the place, actually. So I'm originally Ugandan. I'm currently in Senegal, in Sali, but last week I was just in Nairobi, Kenya. So I move around quite a bit. I'm all over the continent.
Wow. And how does in terms of your culture, right? How do they view artistry as a profession?
So, yeah, that's still a work in progress. Artistry is still seen as sort of the starving artist sort of stereotype for the most part, just generally speaking. But more and more people are realizing and seeing that this is something that you can do and you can actually have a livelihood off of, and
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think that one of the great things that you're doing with your artwork is you're telling stories. You're telling stories with your artistry. And when I went to school for journalism, I knew I wanted to do that because I was fascinated with storytelling. I was fascinated with how stories can really, really impact other people, with how stories connect and relate people to each other, right? Because we're all going through many similar circumstances. And I love how storytelling had a way of letting us know that we aren't alone, and the different avenues in which we can tell our stories in, whether it be through television, whether it be through actually writing your own book, becoming an author, illustration, right? Becoming a digital creative artist, whatever, radio, whatever it may be. Everything in media and in journalism, in my opinion, is interpretive. And that's exactly what you're doing. I think that you are creating a movement, especially in Africa, and I think people need to understand and get connected and be informed of what you're doing. And I'm so proud of the growth that I've seen on your Instagram page. It just really makes me think about what was your favorite project to work on, because I know you create for your own enjoyment, but you also have clients. So do you remember what was a project that you worked on that you absolutely loved?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a difficult question because I have absolutely loved every project that I've worked on. But one that does stand out to me was a project I worked on with a special NGO that creates literacy materials in East Africa. And we worked on a project during COVID to basically explain to children what was happening in the world. And this book went on to be translated into multiple languages and to be also re-illustrated in about 4 different contexts in different countries. So that was an amazing project to be a part of.
Wait, so so you utilized your artistry to explain to other children relevant like issues, societal issues, maybe poverty, everything under discrimination, these things that we face. You use your artistry to actually teach children about what was happening. Is that correct?
Yes,
Oh
yes,
my
yes.
goodness. Fascinating. Fascinating. Nandi, you are doing incredible things. Like there's never a time where I don't look on your Instagram and get inspired. You are doing so many incredible things. I cannot wait until we start our project together because you have this special way of bringing to life exactly what the client wants. She really does, y'all. Like she knows like who you're speaking to, what you want it to look like, the messages that you want to convey, and it's nothing like seeing those characters brought to life. Exciting is an understatement. I'm super stoked for everything that you have coming up. We are going to take a quick commercial break, everybody, but don't you go anywhere because we're going to be chatting with Nandi just a little bit more right after these messages. Stay tuned, everybody. It's the AM Show. Yes, there she is, everybody. Our special guest for this morning, Miss Nandi L Fernandez. Welcome back to the show, Nandi.
Thank you.
Hey, yes, girl, yes. So if you guys are just now tuning in, you guys, Nandi actually is an incredible illustrator, and we've been chatting all of things creativity, storytelling, who's been her biggest inspiration throughout this journey, how has her culture, right, being from Africa, influenced her artwork, the process, her creative process, etc., all of the things. So, Nandi, I want to dive right back into the meat of this sandwich. Now, I know that you've worked on a variety of projects. I know you just conveyed this to us, but I'm curious, as someone who doesn't know how to draw at all, I'm curious what elements of a project heighten the prices? It's like what factors really contribute to the elevation of the prices? Because I know each customer, they want something different.
Right. So in terms of the pricing of work, it takes several factors into account. So like the complexity of a piece, the timeline of the project, so how large or how small the project is as well, the materials, and then of course the level of detail and customization that a client may require. And then additionally, if they require a commercial license or, it's just for personal use. So all of those different factors do affect the price.
Wow, wait, a commercial license. So you need explain that. You need the commercial license to own the material?
For personal use, that's just something that you may hang in your home. It's just something you'd use personally, not anything that you would make a profit of as a client. So if it is something that will be used to make a profit off of, that's where commercial license comes into play.
I see.
Yeah.
Got it. Wow. So many steps. Okay. So, Nandi, I have so many more questions for you, but I do just want to put this vehicle, right, just in reverse just a little bit. What are some of the steps you would give to someone who is interested in creating a book, in creating an animated book, a comic book, a children's book, whatever it may be? Like, give us the beginner starter package. What should they do first?
So if you are creating a book, it starts with a manuscript. So that's the sort of the foundation. So a manuscript that has been finalized and approved and broken down into pages. So that's going to dictate how many pages is in your book. It's also going to dictate as well when a manuscript is being written, who your audience is, so what age group. So the average children's book is about 32 pages, but that varies. So it really all depends on that, but it really starts with the manuscript. Once the manuscript is done, I'm able to take that as an illustrator and break down each page, the visuals, and I personally do a storyboard format for each page. So what my clients will receive is basically a storyboard and layout of how the story is on every single page in terms of the sketches. So from the beginning, and then we work, our way forward with that.
Interesting. What is it? I mean, it certainly is a process. I'm curious, like, what kind of software do you use? Is there a particular software? Because I know many of the artwork, it's digitally, it's digital. So how does your software impact your creative ability?
Yes, so in terms of the software that I use quite a few. So I use Procreate on an iPad Pro, and I absolutely love it because it allows mobility. So that the iPad is light and quick and easy. I can move around with it, so it allows me to sort of create on the go, and it's a very intuitive application. I also use Procreate Dreams, which is their animation software on the iPad that is also really, really good. And I also use the Adobe suite. So I use Photoshop, I use InDesign, I use Illustrator, Premiere. I pretty much use the entire suite. For the illustrations, mostly Photoshop. And in terms of illustrating that, because on the iPad I illustrate directly on the screen. When I'm using Photoshop, I have a Wacom Cintiq pad, so that allows me to draw. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, wait, I'm like fascinated because I really am. I'm like listening to you and like looking at your designs because Nandi, you are incredibly detailed. Yes, like that.
Yeah.
You are incredibly detailed with your design. I mean, girl, you draw our baby hairs.
I do.
You do. You draw our baby hairs. Like you even give us contour, earrings, lashes, brows, like laminated brows, even the shape of most Black women's lips, which is really thick and round and full. Like, why is paying attention to detail so important to you?
Because it's necessary. I'm someone who just really prides themselves in taking time and paying attention to detail and research and referencing. So I use a lot of reference images. I think it's really important as an artist to have a huge reference library and to be taking inspiration from, what exists and then taking that and then recreating it and going off of that. But it's super important to have a reference library to be able to add those little details of realism, because that's what brings the magic. That's what makes it, a little bit believable. So where you're able to have that in between, where is this real? Is this a painting? So I love including that in my drawings.
Yeah, that uniqueness, that attention to detail, Nandi. That's one of the biggest elements, to be honest with you. I believe why people are drawn to your artwork. That's one of the biggest reasons why I was drawn to your artwork, because I'm like, not our girl over here really capturing everything that we are and everything that we're envisioning for a new project. Now, Nandi, I do journalism and I sing and I bake cookies, honey. I do not draw at all. So I know that there are different forms of artwork. So would you classify yourself as a digital creator or as an artist or as a painter? Or I know there's like oil paintings. Like really break that whole umbrella down for me, because I know that there's several different classifications. I know.
Yes, absolutely. So I am a digital artist, but I also like to say I did not start a digital artist. So digital tools for me are just what they are. They're tools. But I started with charcoal and pencil and paper. And I still do charcoal and pencil and paper as well. So, the fundamentals don't change. So whether you're using watercolors, whether you're using oil paint, whether you are sculpting, those are all tools and mediums. But what I would say is the most important thing is having the fundamentals and the understanding. So that doesn't change depending on the tool. So with digital art as well, it's also a tool, because sometimes there's a misconception that with digital art that somehow it can be done for you, or there's shortcuts, or it's easier. And that's just simply not the case. If you don't have the fundamentals or the understanding, just like any other tool, it just won't work.
Got it. Yeah, because I always wanted to know the difference. And I have to be honest, I believed I was a part of those people. I believed that misconception. I'm like, so is digital artistry, is that easier? But you're saying it isn't. You're saying it isn't easier, like digital.
No, it isn't easier. I would say I leaned into digital artistry because I travel a lot, I move around a lot. So like logistically speaking, carrying around all of my tools, it was just a lot easier to, just have my iPad or the laptop and to just have my workstation. So I would say in that way, it is easier. But in terms of the creation aspect of things, it isn't.
Got it.
So you still have to have the fundamentals and the understanding, because it is a tool. So even with digital art, I can still paint on canvas. I can still do oil paintings. I still do watercolor paintings. I still do sketches directly on paper. These are things that I keep personally, but I still do that as well.
Oh my, fascinating. And I mean, you do so much, you're incredibly creative. I'm curious, how do you handle creative blocks? When you get in front of your tools, Nandi, and you have the capability, but nothing is coming to you. How do you handle really overcoming those creative blockages?
So yeah, creative blocks happen to the best of us. I have dealt with them multiple times over the course of my career. And I would say the best thing is stepping away. What works for me is just stepping away from what I'm doing and doing something else. So I love cooking and baking. Like, I think we relate on that. I absolutely love baking. I also love just walking, taking walks, swimming. I love reading. I also love fitness. I love being in the gym. So it really helps me to just step away from what I'm doing and go do something else that I really enjoy. And it resets my perspective to come back and sort of tackle whatever I'm trying to create with just a new paradigm.
I love that, because I think so many creatives, right, whether they are musicians, singers, or artists, or artists like yourself, I think so many creatives, Nandi, can relate to that. It's like, yes, I have the ability, I know what I'm supposed to do, I know I just signed up with this client, but it's like that starting point. It's hard to start sometimes, and I think that's when you really have to really just isolate yourself a little bit. I think sometimes that helps, because that isolation, I know this helped for me, it can recenter you. It's like, I love y'all and I'm getting ready to tap into my community. I really am. But it's true, I get it, girl. I am, but I need to find my why again. Like, I just need to recenter my spirit. And I think after I do that, then I'd be able to be performative. I'd be able to perform and engage in my work better. So I love that. With all of that being said, we are millennials. We're young and we're creative and we're following our dreams. I'm just curious, like, how has social media influenced your process as an artist? Because we talked about your work on social media, but social media just really enables a bigger, like, much more visibility for anybody who has a business. So how has that relationship been like?
So social media has been a huge influence on my business and my work and my career. And it's been a huge reason how I've been able to make this my career. I started sharing my work during COVID on social media, and I really didn't expect much of it. It was just for myself and for accountability. And now I have this amazing audience that uplifts and supports and genuinely appreciates my work. So social media has just been a great way to engage and connect, and just a means to share my work with a much broader community and to reach people that I maybe wouldn't have reached otherwise. And it also allows me to get real-time feedback and that has been amazing.
Yeah, yeah, I assume so. I mean, social media gets a bad rap, but Nandi, Nandi, I'm with you. I think social media is an elite form of communication, especially if you are a business owner. It's one of the fastest forms of communication. It enables you, it profits you the opportunity to make relationships with people internationally. All that's how we met. That's how we met. That's how Nandi and I met. She's in Africa, I'm here in New York, all over the world. That's what it profits us to do. So I think it's good and healthy if you utilize it the right way. Now, Nandi, I know I have to let you go in about a minute, but Nandi, you are doing so many incredible things. I'm curious, what is your ultimate career goal?
Honestly, it's just to keep scaling what I'm doing right now. So, like I said, I have a new book that's going to be coming out soon, my first author illustrated book, and this is going to be the first of many. So, in terms of an ultimate career goal, is to just keep doing what I'm doing and scaling it. So that's what I can say for now.
I love that. And what piece of advice would you give to aspiring artists?
Just do it. Just do it. I think I am somebody who can get caught up in the planning phase of things, or sort of get anxious in the perfectionism of it all. Like, okay, no, this needs to be perfect. This needs to be this way. The best thing you can do is to start.
Yeah.
And then you can iterate. You can work on it along the way. It's not going to be perfect when you start. It won't. But you have started, and it's going to keep getting better. So that's my biggest piece of advice. Just do it. Just start.
I love that. Let us show our love for my girl, Nandi L Fernandez.
Thank you so much.
Nandi, I know you're leaving us. Tell our viewers where they can follow you. Give them your social media handles.
Absolutely. So I am just Nandi L Fernandez, as you see on the screen, everywhere. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, everywhere.
Yes, my girl. Thank you so much for being on the AM show. And you know I will be in touch with you because we are not going to let that dream die. Not at all.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, of course. Absolutely. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you.
So good. Bye. So good, you guys. All right, y'all. That was Nandi Fernandez. Be sure to follow my girl at Nandi L Fernandez all over her social media and the internet. You guys, I promise you, you will not be let down. You will be deeply inspired, especially to all of those artists out there. All right, folks, we're going to head on over to a quick commercial break, but don't you go anywhere because we still have some fun segments coming up right here on the AM show. Keep it locked.